me some food. Get in here, folks. Or not. I know I'm not liked a lot anymore. There's a lot going on in life. I'm eating something. Been starving, man. I've been lost. I got lost out of the city. Phone and GPS wouldn't take me to the right place either. Damn phone glitches all the time. You guys know this. You see it in the freaking live streams. Phone's going dead even when it's halfway charged and just crazy stuff. Like at the store today, I got stranded. Five viewers. This is my husband's account. That's not. If anybody wants to talk, say anything, please do. I want you to know I still appreciate everybody, even if I'm not on a lot anymore. I'm really worried, guys. 6 people. Well, I'm gonna go in about, when we reach 15 minutes in the live stream. We've only got viewers. This is just supposed to be like appreciation for you guys to chat and stuff with me and for each other. And I'm just eating something. I'm starving. I'm so exhausted. I freaking got out of a hospital like so far away from here and Othello. I can't believe I got lost up there. See, I don't know my north or my south or my east or my west instinctually. So I was looking at, and I don't know if certain cities are the same, like way going east, like Seattle and Spokane. I don't know. Or west. Phone and GPS wasn't working. Told the police this. They wouldn't guide me out. They told me where to go. In Moses Lake, which I did not mean to get up to. And so I didn't have any medication or anything on me. I didn't have anything. So I wasn't on anything. And it was just a couple of days of driving around. This has never, ever happened to me. Ever. Car running out of gas on the side of the road. That's never happened to me. Ever. I'm 30 years of age. So ultimately ran into a wheat field from exhaustion, and my tire, the front tire, messed up, and it whenever I backed out, a gentleman had approached me like right away. As soon as I backed out of some, well, it wasn't very tall, but it was pretty tall green grass, and he's like, "Who are you?" And I didn't want to. I said, "I'm Abby." He said, "Well, what are you doing out here?" And I'm like, "Well, I didn't want to, tell him and be embarrassed and say, I'm lost for days and stuff." And so I told him, what I was thinking at the time. And he's like, "Well, you need to get out of here because I'm a tender of this field." Whenever I said, "Well, who are you, sir?" But he was really rough and rude. And I said, "Okay, I'll leave." He's like, "You need to get out of here now." I'm like, "Okay," knowing that I saw that my front tire was flat. I thought the car might at least drive to the road so I could call the insurance company to tow it. So that didn't work. So I got out and started walking. And I was really afraid of this man, so I didn't turn around to look. And he had mentioned something about he was a sheriff, or he was going to get the sheriff. And I said, "That's fine, because, I love cops and stuff." But then I didn't look back, I started having, apparently a delusion. I wasn't on anything, so I thought that was crazy. I haven't been having no delusions. I was just exhausted trying to get home. Asking for directions, all that. I ultimately ended up in a hospital that wouldn't even, for instance, when I went to the bathroom in Othello Hospital, there was no sink in that bathroom. There was only hand sanitizer, and right outside of the bathroom was a sink. Well, I didn't notice that until after I came out and asked them where the sink was, and they knew what I was going to ask. But hold on, I'm trying to eat. Really want healthy these days for cheaper. To go. So I just got back to my apartment tonight, a couple hours ago. I guess we're gonna have 11 viewers and nobody speak. I'm just gonna go. But at the 15-minute mark, it's been 8 minutes, 35 seconds. Well, my local Albertsons has changed a lot too. People are treating me differently. Strange, saying strange things. And it's kind of scary sometimes. I don't know. I was checking out at Albertsons, and they were like, the gentleman, his name was Jonathan, on his name tag. I needed some help picking out some things, and I had 2 people help me do that because I was trying to figure out the difference between certain items in the store that looked very similar that weren't there before. And they said, yeah, a lot of the product labels have changed. That's what I asked them too. I said, has these product labels, labels, been changed recently? And have you guys and all that? And he said yes. It had changed quite drastically, actually. And I'm just worried now because I don't have a car. I didn't even know what, before I got on these 2 Greyhound buses, a Greyhound, and to get home with the help of Kev to get me to the place and where I could get on the bus. And I was scared to death because I know I've never been on that kind of a trip on my own. to get back home, but I tried to call and figure out what towing company. I think, yeah, at least had the car, so I could tell my PO, and I couldn't figure it out. They kept saying, "Oh, we'll call you back." And the two, so I just got into my personal belonging bag from the hospital. I thought it just had clothes and some discharge papers in it, but no. So I was like arrested, but I wasn't taken to jail or given any kind of citation. I was taken to a hospital by 2 officers, and I thought, well, dang, I must be like dead or something to not go to jail. This is crazy. And I didn't even believe them to be real cops at first, because their badges, everything, like their attire from other police I had seen in that very small town. They don't even have a taxi service in that town, is what the hospital told me. Then to call one from Spokane. My dad did. And I had to I told him, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get out of here. There's nobody I have but Marcus, and he won't answer, they said. And my mother, she didn't answer. But I wouldn't give them any of my information. I thought I was, you know, I was having delusions. I got diagnosed with delusional disorder. I've never, ever in my life, guys, had a delusion before. And again, I had all my medications at home. I hadn't taken them before I left the house. And it was scary because I hadn't taken any medications that I'm prescribed. Plus, I missed dialysis Friday, and so Saturday and Sunday I called today when they told me that at the hospital to feel real. I'm like, how am I going to get there? And my sweet nurse angel picked up, so I kept telling you guys. She said to me the other day, well, what's wrong with our water? And I'm like, what do you mean? When I asked her to get me some more, and she said, what's wrong with ours? And I said, nothing. And it was like she thought I was racist or something against her. I'm not. And it hurt me. And the African American cop, one of them was an African American. I told him I'm sorry, you know, if I've ever been racist against anybody that was black or African American. He said, he acted very sad. And he said, in the hospital, I'm not black, I'm a shade of red. And they strapped me to a bed in the hospital. But have you ever heard of them strapping a person to a bed with one of their hands above their head and the other one below? As above, so below. Yeah. Just wild stuff. Hey, Born Mush, how you doing, honey? Crazy people, why, yeah. Crazy people, yeah. Y-E-A with the Y spaced. Not crazy. Not crazy, honey. I'm not crazy. I'm very underdialyzed. And I got lost, and that's probably how I got lost to begin with, because it scared the shit out of me in Albertsons. Well, you Born Muslim, I just told you, honey. Very difficult. Definitely an awakening, though. Awaken my eyes. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna get to dialysis. When they told me at this little small hospital that they called, and okay, and then I called when I finally was woken up after they gave me sedating medicines. I denied, didn't want. I was already exhausted, and that made me so tired. They finally were like, you have to go, you know, somewhere, you know. They let me sleep in the ER. They didn't admit me. They didn't ask me. They kept asking me what my fistula was. I didn't tell them. And they still didn't seek any treatment for me to get dialyzed. It's a weird hospital, huh? So even when I went to the bathroom, there was no sink in the bathroom of the hospital. It was outside the door. It was just hand sanitizer in there. So I asked them these, you know, where's the sink? I've never been in a hospital like that. It scared me to death. And I still thought, well, I must be dead or something. Because This is insane. It was a delusion I was having. Thought I was walking through the valley of the shadow of death, stuff like that. But like whenever I was trying to back my car out of this little bit of a grass patch I had hit that was tall grass, came up to about the hood of the car. I was trying to get back home to Coeur d'Alene. When I was originally left, it was because I was so freaked out about how people were treating me in Albertsons. I just wanted to go for a ride. Maybe the closest up that I was planning on going was the Spokane Valley not hospital, but the Spokane Valley Mall, and getting, maybe a donut or coffee or something from somewhere, and kind of people watching and turn right around. Well, I ended up going a little further than that, and it was very scenic because I was thinking, damn, I want to see some scenery. I'm tired of the city stuff. I got lost out there. Okay, I got lost doing that. I thought, well, it's not a problem. I'll just retrace my steps. I couldn't. It's like everything's told you instinctually. I don't know north and south, east or west, and it was saying go this way and this way, and I thought, why does it say both of those cities, Seattle and go west of Seattle, go east of Spokane? And when I tried to call the police the night before, when I was at a Love's gas station, that for some reason the GPS was said I was going east, and the people kept telling me no, I was going west. And I thought, what the hell? And this Love's looked so different. Like it had a cherry limeade Fanta. Yet whenever I pressed the button, it said instead of just dispensing the Fanta, it just dispensed a red colored soda that tasted like nothing. And so I asked an African American gentleman. There were 4 people in there. Tanya, a beautiful, I don't know what she was, Hispanic, of Asian descent, I don't know. LA, I couldn't pronounce her name correctly, sorry. And there was Daniel, the Hispanic man, or excuse me, the African American man. And then there was a white gentleman, I don't remember his name. Caucasian gentleman, I don't know. Tanya was Caucasian as well, and I said, where's the sheriff? Because when my car got stuck on the side of the road, it said there was a Love's gas station not even 7 miles up. And then I turn it, see, my GPS was Google Maps, and it was messing up on my old phone. Because then it said it was 9 miles, and then it said it was 7 again. So I called to see how much it would cost, and they said $235 just to bring the gas. And I'm like, this isn't when I was in Moses Lake. And I said, oh my goodness, well, I'm going to walk then. I'm going to walk these 7 or 9 miles at night here. And I thought, no, I can't do that. I can't leave this car on the side of the road. Someone might hit it. And I got to stay with the car. And I got to keep the flashers on, the hazard lights and all that. And this gentleman, I said, well, my dad Kev's going to pay for it. And so I said, okay, Dad, let's call, see if he'll do a discount and all. And this gentleman told me his name was Joaquin. I thought, okay. I'm, a young female in a place I don't know. And I said, is it going to be you coming? And he said, first it was going to be a driver. It was a 24-hour towing service. I looked on the general to see if I had what coverage I had, to see if I had any roadside assistance. I don't. I tried to get it put on. They said that it was going to, things may need to be writing. They were closed at the time. Whenever I called, I couldn't get a hold of anybody, so I did all this online as best I could through this old iPhone 6. You guys know how this phone works. It was starting to glitch more and more lately. But it was working fairly well, especially with all the apps. It would turn off sometimes, but that was it. And now the apps are acting a little weird, like the GPS switching up. I knew I was going right home the correct time, and I took a wrong turn and following the road off the GPS, because Siri would speak and then Siri stopped speaking, and then Siri started speaking again. And so I had to look at the freaking phone that was on my, I got rid of that. I threw it on the floor of the car because I thought, you know what, no matter what, I'm not driving with a freaking phone and having to look at it. And Siri doesn't speak because it's taking my eyes off the road. And that just started, like yesterday, to my knowledge. Yeah, yesterday morning. Well, yesterday throughout the day, but yes, more toward yesterday. Um, you know, right before I came to the hospital. Well, no, it had to be. It had to be before that. It was when I got lost. The day before. That's when it started. Not yesterday, but the day before. My GPS started acting up on Google Maps. So I tried to look it up on like a map, and it was difficult to understand because there was no loves there. So I asked the people there. I asked Daniel. I was like, because Marcus works at my ex worked, or I don't know if he still works there. I don't know, but he's worked at Piggy's, and I'm assuming he's still there. There's Chevron. So I remember sometimes whenever drinks don't have flavor, there's like they need to go back and fix the syrup lines or whatever. So the weird thing about this cherry wine Fanta I wanted to get was that it didn't taste of anything. And I told Ale that. And after I told Daniel, and he said he would go in the back. And I figured, okay, he's going to go in the back and see if the syrup and stuff is working. Because I said, and I told every employee in there, I'm like, the gentleman Joaquin, who said he was, Hispanic male, and I said, okay, can you tell me what you are, well, he said he was Mexican. I said, okay, so you're Hispanic. And he said, yes. And I said, okay, can you tell me what you're going to be driving and everything so I know? I'm kind of out here stranded on a highway, and there were a million tow trucks, a million people passing me. Not one would stop. I had my hazards on, I had my headlights on, flashed my brights. Nobody would stop or pull over to help me. And I had asked, you know, so I called the police several times. I said, you know what? Never mind, I'm gonna call the cops. He said, well, I doubt the cops will help you without charging you at least $208 to bring you gas, because they're not gonna, and I doubt they'll do that. I said, yeah, but I said, okay, I got to do something anyway, so I'm gonna call the police, because he had mentioned he had to get up. Well, first he said a driver from his home, and I said, wait a minute, you don't dispatch drivers? It's a 24-hour towing service. He said, no, they're at their home asleep. And I said, okay. I said, I'll let you know if I can get that money, but I don't know. So I called my dad, Kevin, and I said, because he said he would have to notify the local sheriff. I said, why? He said, well, what if I get hit on the side of the road? And I thought, whenever I'm bringing you gas, and at first he told me he'd bring only 3 gallons, and I said, oh my goodness. And then he ended up bringing 5. He said, it looked like a lot more than that. But I mean, it looked like, I don't know, I'm not good with numbers. But anyway, what he ended up doing was calling me back when I had my dad on the three-way. And I had my dad, Kev, and I said, Dad, let's call these and try to get me out of here, because I didn't want to have the car towed. I wanted to get to this Love's gas station, and I wanted to call the police. And I called the police regardless, like before that. And so Joaquin came, and he said something strange. He said, Hispanic is a defensive term. And I said, what do you mean? You said you were Mexican. And I said, I just say Hispanic. He said, it's just an offensive term to any Mexican. We're not Spaniard. We're not from Spain. I said, well, what does that have to do with anything? I have a half ex who is, or half ex. My ex Marcus is half Mexican, half Hispanic. He's never told me that. His mother's full, Hispanic from Mexico. She's never told me that. People don't tell guys the word Hispanic is not. You know what I mean? So he said that. Joaquin said that to me. And I was very thankful, because he said he would come out and do it for free. He told my dad that. He said, if my daughter or anybody was a howdy burger boy, or anybody was stranded like this, my wife, anybody, I'd want somebody to help them. And I still offered to pay him, and I did end up paying him for the amount of money he said that he, $25 for that 5 gallons of gas from the Loves. And he also said, oh, by the way, whenever you go that way, there's a sheriff up the road, and I noticed you don't have any license plate on your car. Well, I didn't tell him I had a temp tag because, we have tractor trailers and everything flying by us. I told you there was a million people that passed. With my hazards on, my brights on, my lights on, me flicking my lights on and off, trying to get some help, stuff like that. Everybody was just going around me in Moses Lake. And he said there's a sheriff up the road I saw about 3 miles up. Well, my GPS, I know I drove more than 3 miles. And my GPS will say, oh, it's 9 miles, and I was going east. And then it said 7. And I told you the Loves, I asked everybody, I'm like, is this new? Because this Google Maps, Google app is saying it's here, but the map is telling me it's not. I'm just Googling a regular map. And they said, oh yeah, we opened about a month and a half ago. So I thought, okay, maybe Google Maps, the app I have, it just hadn't, put it on the, it's out, hadn't had time to update it yet because it was a newer store. So anyway, she just kept running both of the Fantas, and whenever you press the cherry limeade Fanta, it would have the option, it would have a red and green button next to it that said cherry and and lime. And I thought that was weird, like as if you have to dispense that on its own. So I tried to do that, and those buttons didn't work. I showed Ale, and forgive me for pronouncing your name, Miss Ale. I can't pronounce it in the type of I don't know, the way she said it sounded beautiful. Their names are spelled really different. Like, I've never seen Tanya spell her name that way. I've never seen Daniel spell his name that way. I've never seen, and the same thing was happening at Albertsons. The day I took off, that's the only reason I went off. I went to take a drive close. Like I said, the furthest I wanted to go was Spokane Valley Mall and get off at that exit and get like a Krispy Kreme donut and a coffee and drop back because I was, worried and scared and thought things were very strange the way people were talking to me, telling me, oh yeah, city folk can be mean. I'm like, what do you mean? And then, like, for instance, like at the self-checkout in Albertsons, the guy who I've seen before, he had a name tag on saying his name was Jonathan. It's crazy. He said, where are you from? I said, originally North Carolina, but I've been up here 12 years. He said, oh, I'm from Ohio, and my family did this, that, or the other. And then he said, yeah, I'm from when I lived in Virginia, where I'm from originally. In the same sentence. I said, well, wait a minute, you just said you were from Ohio, now you're saying you're from Virginia? He said he didn't, and then some other person needed help, and because he was running the self-checkout, and he walked away. Well, I didn't think nothing of it, but stuff like that, and then he kind of mumbled something that I couldn't understand, like you were saying I'm mumble, burger boy. And funny how I can't see your chat now when I could see it before. When I press live chat, I could see it on my phone. I could scroll up always when I press live chat, and then other times on this app, the chat would come up automatically like it's supposed to do because the app is up to date. But on my phone, it's not doing it now. So sorry about anybody who's commenting in. Of the 13 viewers I see I have right now, we've gone 30 minutes. So anyway, then Jonathan at the same time, he came back over to help me, and he said, yes, all I did was scan a bottle of water. And he said, oh no, you got to put in a code like this, and he didn't show me that. He just put in the code and said it really. I'm like, what? It's not a piece of fruit. So then he said, yeah, there's people in the city, I'm from a smaller town, He said, I guess the city people can just be, crazy sometimes, or whatever he said. And I said, no, he said, those city people can be mean sometimes. He said, it's funny how, no, he said, remember I just told you first in the same sentence, he said it was from Ohio, then something about his family, and then he said it was from West Virginia in the same sentence. I said, wait a minute, I thought you just said you were from Ohio. Because, he asked me where I was from, and I said, and then he said, no, Virginia originally. He said Virginia. He didn't say originally. That's what I said. I said I'm originally from North Carolina, but I've lived here 12 years in Coeur d'Alene. He said, yeah, it's funny how the city folk can be meaner sometimes. Funny how the city folk can be rude when they want to be. And I said, that's exactly what he said after he said he was from Ohio and Virginia in the same sentence. After, in between that, he said something in regards to his family, having family up there in Ohio. And I said, wait a minute, that's people can be mean no matter where they're from. It doesn't matter if they're in a city or from a city or a big city or south or whatever. And yeah, so I found that strange. I try to get some recommendations on some things I needed, like different detergents and stuff to wash clothes. Cause yeah, but now I don't have a car at all because I ran into that wheat field and I didn't mean to. And I could see. And I was telling Jesus to take the wheel, not literally, but whenever I've had enough faith to back out, because it wouldn't back out, the damn thing backed out without me even pressing the gas hard enough for it to back out. Because I did it first, and it wasn't backing out. I said I command this car to back out in the name of Jesus Christ, and it wasn't. The half of that wheat field was plowed, dude, and the other half was just green grass. It was wheat. It was green. It looked like tall green grass. It came up to about, a little under my hood, maybe a little bit above it, just a tiny bit. So I wasn't like in over my head in this wheat field. And then again, I told you, as soon as I backed out, a guy pulled up. A truck pulled up. As soon as he saw me back out of the little patch of grass I was in. And what looked like grass. It's not like I was in a huge wheat field with wheat growing everywhere. It was half dead. No, had been plowed, whatever. It was like half dead. And then the other half was, wheat growing up to the point where it looked like green grass up to my hood. But I stopped the car at that point. The brake locked up, and I finally was able to stop it. And the power steering was getting bad. I tried to put it in, or I should have tried to put it in, but it wasn't bad enough. I know that car right now. And it's strange because I had just taken that car to Valvoline, that's how I pronounce it, and I got it all ready. I changed the oil in it, I took it over there exactly. I got the power steering fluid, all that. Not even like a week prior for like $40. And it was $25 the time before. And it needed an oil change. It said, again, very weird. Because I know I hadn't driven that much in a while. Anyway. So I learned to keep gas in that car, definitely. So when Joaquin came and he said he'd do it for free after telling me it'd cost $220, after 5, I added it up. And I called my dad, Kevin, and he was going to help me pay some of this, and I was going to give cash the rest. And, it's just I don't have any cash to my name. I have maybe like, I don't even know how much, a couple 20s left. Now I got to figure out, I was asking the gentleman in the taxiway on home, funny, like my phone's never done this until today. Never has it gone dead when it was halfway charged. It just suddenly stopped, and it has done that before, but then it's come back on, saying the battery, didn't have enough whatever power to do whatever it needed to do. No. My battery will go down to 0 before it dies. Sometimes it'll do the whole, oh, the battery didn't have enough power to power the iPhone if this whatever it says. So it suddenly stopped, but it would always come back on before I sat down at the A&D where they dropped us off on the Greyhound bus. And hey, Carrie, live chat. I pressed live chat, guys, and instead of letting me scroll up to see what's being said, like when Burger Boy came in earlier and said hello, Born Mush did, you, Carrie, it's still showing a black screen. It's only showing Marty and Burger are alive. If you want to go on, oh, Marty, you mean? No, I don't want to go on their panel, honey. I didn't even plan for this live to be as long as it was. 10 people in it currently, 36 minutes now, and 8 likes. So, are you listening to did you just get in? Okay, so now it's popping up correctly. Like, see, it's supposed to do what it's doing now on my phone, Carrie, where the chat pops up every time a comment comes in, but earlier it wasn't. And so when I tried to press, my little icon here that looks like I know what to press, and it says live chat just to do it over again. It was saying welcome to live chat, even though other people had commented in here like Mush and Burger Boy before they went live. So anyway, that's what caused me to start driving anyway. What happened to me in Albertsons, and people saying stuff like, "Oh, I was born in Ohio, and yeah, I had family there." And then this about there, and then no, I said, and he said, yeah, it was great growing up in Virginia or whatever. And I said, wait a minute, you just said Ohio. The guy that checked me out at Albertsons, and he said, yeah, it's funny how being from the country originally, he said, no, I said Virginia, and I know what he said. He said it in the same sentence. And then I told you he was running the self-checkout, so I had to, walk away whenever I said that. He had to walk away. Whenever I said, no, wait, you just said Ohio, and then now you're saying Virginia in the same sentence. And he had to walk away. Then he came back and he was like kind of mumbling something, and I don't know. Like Burger Boy says, I mumble sometimes originally on my other account that's closed now. And so when I ran into this tiny little bit, like I said, this part of it was all plowed, and it was growing, it was grass growing in the wheat field. And it was, as soon as I, the brake locked up a little bit, that's how I ended up even getting in that stupid field. So I was like, Jesus, take the wheel, figuratively and literally. But, I didn't let go of my wheel and stuff. It's crazy. And basically, like I say, it's not like I was plowing through a freaking wheat field full of wheat. No, that wasn't happening. So I barely got into some wheat, and then I stopped the car when the brake was, I was trying to stop the car, the fucking brake started locking up. Just like when I was at the store and I had to have, as soon as I put gas in the damn thing, the battery died. Wouldn't crank up. But my battery had never died in the Impala before. And 2 gentlemen they pushed me, and I got out, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna help push too. And I had driven the car, it was cranking up just fine, and then I put gas in it and it didn't crank up. So, and I was trying to get home, my phone was glitching like it's glitching now. I thought, see, nobody's talking now. 7 viewers, 40 minutes, and so anyways, like, I was just trying to get home, and I originally, when this happened to me in Albertsons, and he came back to the register. I went to get something else, came back, he wasn't working. Hold on, I see that. Okay. Then, okay, Carrie. That one did come through, but disappeared. It's not supposed to disappear like that. And when I press this live chat, see, it's not coming up. It's saying, welcome to the live chat. Remember to guard your privacy. I try to scroll up, down. Okay, now they're all popping up. See all these ones I missed. But see, I didn't see JW earlier. He wasn't there. But see, earlier, born mid, you need AAA. Yeah, born. See, I didn't see all that. Before, I only saw, and whenever I pressed it before, it said welcome, what I just read. And when I scrolled up and down like I'm doing now, it didn't show anybody's comment. So it's just crazy. And I know I missed a few here. Embry, I see you. Like, for instance, Robbie P2, yours didn't even pop up like Carrie's is. And like some people say, that's what I mean by my phone glitching, guys, doing the same thing with my GPS, and it had never done that. That's how I got so lost. But I figured, it's telling me I'm going east. So anyway, whenever this gentleman, I was 7 miles from a gas station, lost, trying to get home. My GPS went from saying I was like 50 to 90 miles from home. No, 50. And then it went from saying that when I took a turn that it told me to take. It said I was 152 or 136. It kept changing on the Google app. And I called the police and told them this. And so anyway, I ended up being stranded on the side of the road. Like I said, I've never been stranded, never been lost like that, ever in my life. Never have I any car, run out of gas like that and been stranded on no side of the road, especially being lost. So I had the money, to put it in there, put gas in there. I thought, okay, I can make it 7 more miles. And I was lost. So basically, like whenever the Google Maps, actual map that I Googled said there was no Loves there, but the Google app said there was, that I was using when I asked Siri to, get me back to Coeur d'Alene before that. And that's why when I went to this Loves, nobody was in there. And no customers or anything. I said, is this a new Loves? And I explained to them, hey, it shows on my maps that my app on my maps on my old iPhone 6 that got me stranded in the first place, showing different things when I took a different turn, when I didn't, different times, stuff like that. Oh, you'll arrive at this time, you'll arrive at this time. Ridiculous. I've never had that map fail me, ever. Never had any of those apps fail me. Never any kind of navigation. So then I Googled Google Maps, and it said the Loves wasn't there. And it told me I was going east when I was told I was going west. Well, the map showed east on Google Maps, the app. So it was crazy. So when I went in there, I talked to Ale. I don't know if she was Hispanic and like I say, so whenever it was crazy, like the cherry limeade thing. I thought, is there a cherry limeade Fanta? But when I pressed it, instead of just it coming out in red like it didn't taste like anything. I thought, oh, they need to change the syrup dispensers. And African American man Daniel said, oh, I'll go back and check it. And the interesting thing is, when I pressed it again, I even had Allie come over and look at it on both sides of the machine, where they had two, if somebody else had walked up beside me and wanted to press, get the same drink, they could at the same time. But it had a red button that said like cherry and a green button that said lime, like as if I needed to press those. But when I pressed those, nothing came out, which is weird because it shouldn't have even been there. If there was a cherry limeade Fanta, like I said, I pressed a cherry limeade, it started to dispense a red liquid, but it didn't taste of anything. She even said, I said, taste this. It doesn't. She said, yeah, it don't taste right. So I said, well, can you let Daniel know? Because I already spoke with the African-American man named Daniel. And I spoke with Tanya, and I said, Tanya, where's your nearest sheriff's department or that I can get to? And she gave me, she said, I said, what's their number? because I'd called 911 before, and I spoke to dispatch, and I said, is there a sheriff I can talk to? And I told him, look, the gentleman that just came and put from a towing company and put gas in my car, who he originally said is going to be like $220. And I told him, can you take any of that money off, because it's ridiculous. I don't have enough money, honey, to do that. I mean, I do, but it'll be about all I have. So I said, I'll get my dad to call and I'll think about it. And he said, oh, I have to notify the sheriff. I said, that's okay, but why? He said, well, what if I get hit on the side of the road? And he also needed to know, like, did I pass Moses Lake? I said, I don't know if I passed a lake. I've never been here. I only meant to go to Spokane Valley Mall, turn around after maybe getting a donut or something after what happened to me in Albertsons, and a coffee, and turning back. And then I got lost doing that. I've never been lost doing that. But just like with all the brands being different in the Albertsons, all the branding, like it was so strange, and the way that Jonathan and everybody was talking to me, it was weird. He said, yeah, it's funny how I'm from Ohio, and then he said Virginia, and then in the same sentence, and somebody took his attention away because he was running the self-checkout, and, like he said, yeah, he'd come back up, and he'd help me get a bottle of water. I was just, trying to get that done, and I was paying for it, though, up there at the, because I was paying for it where he was, because my register was messing up, and then the same register messed up for somebody else, the self-checkout. So anyway, when he came back, he said, yeah, it's funny how the city folks can be mean sometimes versus where I'm coming from. And I said, wait a minute, what does that mean? Because people can be mean no matter where you're from, whether it's south or the, it doesn't matter where you're from. People can be mean anywhere. He said, yep, city, we sure can, or something like that. And I thought that was very strange. But anyway, so that freaked me out, how many different, brands looked, the branding, it looked so different. And they said, yeah, a lot of these brands have changed, and they're the same stuff, guys, the same stuff. And there was way more brands, like with the different labeling, not the brands, the labeling, the packaging, it looked different. Some of it was even spelled wrong. Crazy, and that freaked me out too. So that's why, the whole reason why I decided to take a drive anyway. Like I said, I didn't want to go past that. The brands, the logo, everything. Some of the logos were, no, the logo. Well, I mean, if they changed not the brands, but added more brands than I'd ever seen in that store too, in one aisle. Like, for instance, Dawn, instead of just Dawn soap, when I turned it around, it said antibacterial hand wash. I thought, no, that's not right. And then the one behind it, it was like a glitch. It said, or a manufacturer's misprint. It said the correct thing, Dawn dish soap, dish soap, antibacterial, cuts through grease. It didn't say, hand soap, antibacterial hand soap, as like the first one I picked up did. But they had like a Dawn sponge for hand washing near the, like, wands and stuff, and to wash dishes with. I don't have a very dirty sink, and I don't have very many dishes that need to be cleaned. So it was just strange, and the pricing was like really different. But this over here with that, instead of with the dish, the dish soaps were like all by themselves. But they had the Dawn, like, it was like a paddle, it was like a puff thing next to the wands and stuff, and it was Dawn, but it was like for washing your hands with. But it wasn't, like the bottle of soap. It was different. It was like it was a place where the, like, say, the wands and the different types of Scotch Brite and everything, to sponges and stuff like that. The ones with the bristles to clean the dishes with, and I'm like, I don't need one this heavy duty, And it was like $18 for some of this. Are you kidding me? $8 and $9 versus $3. It was raining, not raining, but it was thundering, which is very rare here, especially in spring. I've lived here 12 years. I've never seen more than one storm, if that, a year. We had a windstorm last year, but that was it. Before that, it had been years since we had a storm. Now it's thundering, guys, but it ain't raining, and the clouds don't look like it might. I don't know. It's getting dark out. It's hard to see through my window. Anyway, so like I say, this phone was glitching and stuff. I'm like, I've never seen it glitch on any app except this one. And so anyway, it was halfway charged whenever they dropped me off this Greyhound bus, and that was scary to maneuver too, because I had to switch buses in Spokane. So like, it was just weird. It had the signs in Othello, which I never meant to get up to. It's funny how that Othello reminded me of Brian in the poem, but I don't know the poem too well, the Shakespeare poem, and all I do is Miss Marcus, But I'm trying to make it on my own. I know that he's a separate entity from me, and he's living his own life. He's his own man, and I'm not grieving. I want him to be happy. But I just miss him, It's not like Mark. He was letting me in the store before, as long as Kira was cool with it, Kira was fine with it, if Marcus was fine with it. And then after Marcus left, I go in the store and he's not okay with it. I thought, okay, when Bob's there, I understand, because he said before that Bob's bitched him out whenever he, at the end of the night, for letting me come in there. And that how Bob and we would joke back in the day, even how Bob needs to get laid and stuff, even when we dated. But that was his joke, not mine, because he said Bob lived not far from there and lived alone and had nobody. And I said, gosh, he's hanging around all the time out there, Mark, and he don't like me. And I've never said one bad word to Bob. So I don't know. Anyway, so when I was trespassed, and that was stupid, I was legally, I did it. I called the law and had myself legally trespassed from there when Marcus asked me to leave because I was hurt. I told you why over one last year or the year before, whenever he had a girl tag him who I knew, who told me, well, I know him, longer than you do. I said, well, that don't matter. I'm not trying to have no fight with you, honey. That's my boyfriend, And Marcus told me she was a heroin user at the time, and then she got clean since, apparently, from what I know. I don't know. I never hung out with this girl. This was just, it just hurt me. That's why I went to Marcus's that day, raising hell anyway. I never, ever do that, okay? And I didn't do nothing violent or anything to anybody, but it just hurt. And this was on my birthday, Yet Marcus couldn't come home and spend some time with me on my birthday after work, Come on. And again, I don't remember if this was a year ago or 2 years ago. But he brought me some flowers last year, I believe, just like with that memorial bouquet I bought him last year. It looked the same in Safeway. I ended up giving it, going around the St. Thomas Cemetery here and Coeur d'Alene, and I walked around and looked at I was going to put it on the grave, because usually they have a lot of flags and red, white, and blue, flowers and stuff. That's what I just said, Carrie. I just talked about that, honey, before that came in, unless that's coming in late. But, sorry, I know I explained earlier how this phone's been glitching right now tonight on this. Anyway, yes, I remember the flowers he got me. I just talked about them before I read your comment, honey. Anyway, I'm surprised it's even coming up now. See what I mean with this fucking phone? Anyway, but my maps and stuff has never steered me wrong. So that's scary. So anyway, that love, they said, yeah, we've only been open a month and a half, and it looked so weird, And so Daniel, I asked him if he'd go back. He said he'd go back and check, and I figured, okay, well, having an ex like, Marcus, I've been in the store, and, he would have to change the syrups and stuff, change the the bag or whatever that the syrup comes out of to make the flavoring of the soda. So I thought that was the problem. Yet I told you with the cherry limeade Fanta, I thought that was weird. Why, when I pressed it, did it come out as a red soda, but it had two buttons that were red and green, and the one said cherry, one said lime. I pressed them thinking, oh, okay, maybe I get to manage how much of each syrup comes out. Well, when I pressed them on both sides of the machine, like if somebody were to walk up to me and wanted to get the same soda, nothing came out. And I showed Ale, I showed, Tanya, I told them, I showed Ale, and I'm sorry I can't pronounce her name correctly, the beautiful way she pronounced it. But it was spelled beautiful, A-L''E, kind of different. And Antonio was spelled different. Daniel was spelled differently than normal. It was weird. But anyway, so the African American gentleman, Daniel, it was taking him an awful long time. In fact, I never saw him come back out. And then so I called one. This is when I said, I said, where's your sheriff's department around here? Because the gentleman who just put gas in my car, who told me it was going to be $220, I calculated it for sure, and I said, so 88 and this and that, and he said, yes. So I said, can you take any off? Because I was going to pay for it, but that would left me about broke. And I needed to get my car home. I needed my car, but like I said, I took the wrong turn, and then my GPS started messing up, my Google Map app. But that showed the Loves was east, and showed me when I was in Moses Lake, where this Loves was, that it was 9 miles, and it showed 7, so it started messing up. But the Google, when I Googled it, like the old-fashioned way, and I did the map like the turn by turn, there was no Loves there, and I thought, maybe just the app, the Google app itself, hasn't showed this Loves, because they said they'd only been open a month and a half. Okay, I thought, okay, maybe that explains why this place is pretty desolate too, with no other customers. There was one other customer that came in like 10 minutes after I was there, because but anyway, Ale kept just pressing both of those whenever she saw that it didn't taste of anything. I told her the syrup needed to be changed. The bags of syrup needed to be changed out, which I thought Daniel was back there doing, the other employee. But she said, I'm just going to keep, she just kept pressing it, and pressing it, thinking it'll get stronger, or, maybe the syrup was, being changed, or, maybe it took a minute. But she just kept pressing. I said, that's okay, never mind. I'm just going to have ice, and like I normally have been having ice water. And like I say, it hurt me whenever Angel told me the other day, what's wrong with our water? And I said, what do you mean? It just hurt, like she thought I was being racist or something when I asked her to give me more water, because usually I get nauseous with water. But I've been drinking more of it lately. But the thing is, when all this stuff was happening to me at Albertsons, like I explained earlier on in this, so many different packaging, branding, labels changed, stuff like that, and so many different options. It was crazy of the same thing. The way Jonathan, the gentleman, spoke with me regarding I'm from Ohio, and then I have family in there, and then and I said, he said, yeah, I love growing up in Virginia, not West Virginia. I said, wait a minute, you just said you were from Ohio originally when you came up and asked me what I was from. And then he took his attention away, because he's a self-checkout. He has to guide that as well. I know that. But the gentleman who was using the machine, the self-checkout I was using, was having problems too. And so that's why I originally, even started talking to him to have him ring me up for a bottle of water. And I was going to go back and get me the stuff I needed. I just saw so many options. I was going to get some help from like somebody who could step away from the self-checkout, like maybe a customer service. And I got them to help me, but still there was so many different options that I ended up just not buying anything, because the branding was just so crazy. I told you about how like the dish soap, the Dawn dish soap, it looked different. They had, and I turned it over and read the bottle. It said antibacterial hand wash. And I thought, it doesn't say dish soap. But then the one behind it said, antibacterial, dish soap on the back where the ingredients was. And so it was weird. Maybe it was a misprint or something. There were so many different sizes they had. The ounces, the milliliters weren't adding up correctly. Some of the bottles were kind of warped looking. It was just crazy. And it was like this with the dish detergent. It was like this with the laundry detergent I was going to buy. It was like this with all the lotions, makeup, not the makeup, but the lotions and the facial wash that I got help because Lori had to go, and she spelled her name very weirdly too. I don't know, but anybody can spell their name the way they want to. Spelling the name, spelling of the name. But I started noticing this stuff whenever I started noticing mail and things I got, like my current lease, which I never read. I just trust and I care for Michelle and her sons, her family so much, especially Michelle. I know her the most. When I let Michael come in here and see the state of the apartment, it's like it got worse whenever it was broken into. It got way worse. So I showed it whenever Michelle came up here the other day and I talked to her about it. I told her, look, why won't, this place is broken into. And when I told her that originally, when I had the $850 rent to pay for July, or excuse me, May, she didn't want to come. First, she was going to drive up here and get it. Then she had to go to London. And I said, well, can Matthew come get it? Can Michael come get it? No, Matthew can't come get it. She didn't even offer for Michael to come get it. I said, can you take it to Mark or give it to you to take to Mark? Can you, because I'm not doing the whole money order thing because it might get lost in the mail, and I'm waiting on checks from my bank, and I just have cash right now. I can't get my PayPal app or anything. I can't download Venmo because the phone's too old to deal with that update. Although it did update eventually to a newer version of iOS, which would cause my headphone jack to quit working with manual headphones. So anyway, I told her again, I don't understand why you didn't come get the rent if you were having to, not if you were charging me less than others, then why didn't you let me know long ago, like 8 months ago, when you told me about the rent increase, that Mark was gonna, help cover while I got the car in order. I was everybody saw that I was maintaining that vehicle. I bought the motor mount for it. I was inspected. I was saving a little bit each month to get other repairs done on it. Now it's gone totally. Now I don't know what I'm going to do, how I'm going to get to dialysis, and I didn't know that I technically was arrested whenever I barely ran through that freaking deserted refit. The road was right beside me, but see, Siri wasn't speaking, and I'd have to look at the, GPS again. It was failing me, I told you why earlier in this. And so I had to look at the maps and make sure we were going the right way. Anyway, so it was just crazy. Long story short, I got stranded on the side of the road with the gas because my GPS rerouted me, and it was just awful. And when I made that wrong turn, and it told me I was, instead of being like, okay, take this route, I ended up being like way far from home. It just changed all of a sudden. And like I say, the low is that I was going east, and there was the lows 7 miles, and then it would say 9 miles on the Google app, the Google Maps app I have. But the Google traditional typing in google.com and typing in the map, and all that, it didn't show a Love's. So I thought when I went in there and I asked everybody, is this a new Love's? And I explained that to them. I explained that to the police that came out there that I called. When I asked, where's your local sheriff's department? And they said, well, it's somewhere around here, we don't know. I said, well, they probably wouldn't, in Moses Lake, even welcome, like, I probably can't just walk in the front door, like my local, like, state sheriff's department. You can't just walk in the door. Next to dialysis, I've tried many times. I tried it on film. And basically, it ended up, the sheriff ended up coming out there, and the whole reason I called him was, to get directions again. And they said, oh, okay, you go this way and this way. It was simple. And I said, okay, thank you, Officer Niabla, who was a Hispanic gentleman. And Then there was a white officer who had his name covered at first after he said it was McDonald, Officer McDonald, a Caucasian man. And they referred to themselves as deputies. One of them did, even though they're on the side of their, on the side, where the patch is and star, it said sheriff. And the other one referred to himself as sheriffs, and they all both pulled up in sheriff's cars. And so basically, Officer Niabla, yeah, I got his name right. I couldn't say it right to the dispatch the second time, and I thought about it, and I got it right. And he was very sweet. They were both very sweet. And then I said, okay, I'll do that. And I said, can you follow me to make sure I'm, getting on the correct way to Coeur d'Alene? Because I don't know my north from south from east to west, and now I can't instinctually, and now I couldn't rely on my maps. And basically, because it was rerouting me to different places on, like I said, the app. But on the map, it didn't show that Loves was there, and it said I was going east when I was actually told I was going west by the gentleman from the towing company, Joaquin, who first, we'll get back there. He told me I was going west. I'd never been to Moses Lake. I never meant to get up there. So anyway, I called the police, the sheriff. I wanted the sheriff, but I asked Tanya. I said, after I asked her that, where's your local sheriff's department? I thought, they're not gonna let people walk in. I had already called the police before that, and I didn't get the sheriff's name or anything, but I got the dispatcher's name, and I forgot it while I was up there to tell them what was going on with my phone. And that's the first time ever that, what was this, not yesterday when I was in the hospital, but the day before, later on in the day, maybe around 4 or 5 o'clock. I thought, oh my gosh, I gotta get home. How on earth did I get up here in Moses Lake? How did I get, when I went to go, oh my god, I just meant to go up to freaking Spokane Valley Mall after what happened to me in Albertson. That was it. And not actually go to the mall after what happened to me in Albertsons. Just give me a donut or something from Krispy Kreme and coffee, and turn around, maybe get the products I need up there somewhere cheaper. And that was it. But I ended up getting lost because my GPS didn't reroute me the right way, and it was closed off the normal ways that I know. A lot of the to get off and to get back there, the detours, all that was getting me lost, more and more lost. But my GPS was working then, and then I made a wrong turn, I guess, or something. But I went where it told me to when Siri would talk, and it was just crazy. And it would go from showing me like a green line where I was going to show me a dark blue, like police blue, that I've always wanted to be a member of law enforcement. But anyway, in that Loves, I told him what I just told you guys over and over and over and over and over. So we have 9 viewers still and all that. Just thought that was crazy, man. How I got my app. Oh, you're going east, when I just was told by the tow truck driver, no, you're going west. And I said, why is my Google Map showing me east whenever saying there's a Love's 7 miles up the road from where I ran out of gas trying to get home? It made me think, damn, that did reroute me too, and it rerouted me wrong on Google Maps. But when I looked it up on the actual Google, like not the app, but Google, it didn't show no Loves. And I thought, okay, when I went in there, and LA told me it was all in the restore, and Daniel did. And I said, how long have y'all been open? A month and a half. I said, okay, that explains why I might not be showing up on the Google Maps app that I have. But anyway, so I wanted to call the cops because I did, and I already had before that, called the sheriff's department after I asked Tanya, where's your local sheriff's department? And that Loves in Moses Lake. And she said she wouldn't tell me, she didn't know the address. I said, well, it must not be, they're not going to let people in. This just pedestrians walking in the sheriff's department this time of night. It was like 8 or 9 o'clock, I think. And I was just so upset because I was trying to get home. My map wasn't working. I was relying on my GPS, my Google Maps GPS map app at that point. I didn't even think to look at an actual map, typing in on Google until I got to that Loves and Park, because I didn't want to take my eyes off the road, even when Siri would stop talking. So that's how I made a weird turn, but it still should have rerouted me, and it did. But it was awful. So I called the sheriff out there. There were two, McDonald and Niabla. McDonald had his name you know, like a patch over his name, and he also held his hand up to where it was over his name, but I still remembered it. And then I bought $40 worth of gas on. I wasn't pulled up at a pump when this happened, because I wanted to speak to the law first, and I wanted, my windows are tinted so dark. I wanted them to see me, so I called the sheriff and 911, and I didn't even have to call 911 in Moses Lake that time, the second time, because Tanya knew. She said, "Do you want the emergency number or non-emergency?" I said, "Non-emergency." She said, she gave me a 509 number. I called it. Said, "It's kind of funny how you working at Lowe's or Loves out here. You at this new Loves, these guys have said have been only open a month and a half, and even though it's not showing that on Google Maps app, it's showing that on the actual, when I type it into google.com, and it's not showing it there, or excuse me, it was showing it on the Google Maps app. It wasn't showing it on the, just typing it into Google onto a regular map. But I figured, well, it's not showing on the Google Maps app navigation, because you just said it's Love's been open only a month and a half. Maybe it hasn't had time to, be put on there. So this was a couple of days ago, and just 2 days ago, and I was trying to get home, and I'd been lost, and oh my goodness, I missed my dialysis because of it. I was already under dialyzed. They were getting me on late, having to test my machines over and over and over, even when I'd call them, let them know I'm going to be 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late. It was awful. It's been awful lately. And so anyway, whenever I just thought that was weird with the soda machine thing, with the cherry limeade Fanta, and then when I pressed it, when you press it on a new store, when somebody can walk up beside you with the same exact drinks, after I asked the African American man Daniel in that New Loves to explain to him, and he said to go check it. Well, I figured, hey, he's just going to change the syrup bag, so that, because that's what Marcus would do whenever it was tasteless whenever you go up to those press and go machines. And I was having water and ice and stuff, and I wanted something a little different. But when I showed Ale, I was like, even though I couldn't pronounce it correctly, she pronounced it beautifully. Ale, she said, it's beautiful. Anyway, she walked over. She said, I said, "Look at this. It's dispensing like it should." And I thought it was weird how it said Fanta cherry limeade. They don't have that. But I figured, well, maybe it's new flavor. I've been seeing a lot of new labels, like in Albertsons, which freaked me out. But when I pressed it, it said cherry and lime and red and green button. I thought, oh, okay, I'll be able to measure the amount of syrup I want in it. But no, when I pressed them on both sides, and they even had Ale do it, they didn't do anything. So, and I said, well, I asked Mr. Daniel if he would go back and look, and he said he was checking it, and she just kept pressing and pressing and pressing. Because I said, I don't want to have to pay for this drink if I don't have to, but I will. And she said, no, you don't have to, just pour it out in the, where she was pressing to make over and over on both of them. The one beside me, if anybody would walk up and want the same drink whenever I was, making mine, or dispensing mine, that didn't taste of anything. That Fanta didn't. And that cherry limeade Fanta, she just kept, and it was just like red and red, 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 red. And then to see if it would get stronger, because she said, she didn't say nothing about and I didn't either at the time, about, them checking it, Daniel going back there to check it. I just told you guys that I figured he was switching out the syrup bags, because after all, they said it was a new Loves. And I thought, well, I'll ask Miss Tanya. So I said, where's your local sheriff's department? You know, I'd like to call them again because the gentleman that had just came and put gas on my car on the side of the road, even though I've never run out of gas like that, never been stranded, but I was lost in Moses Lake. Didn't mean to get up there either when my GPS failed me for the first time, and I didn't realize it on this Google Maps and app, the Google Maps app. I didn't even think, guys, until I got into that Love's parking lot to Google it manually on Google, that map, where it didn't show that Love's. And I thought, oh man, you know, it hasn't showed up on the app yet. But no, it had rerouted me a million different places and got me lost, and numbers had changed, and it was just crazy. Saying I was going east when Joaquin, the gentleman who came out to get the gas in my car, told me I was going west. That's not something Google Maps app would do, you know. Everything works fine. Just like it's been glitching on. The only thing that's been glitching is like YouTube and the phone cutting on and off. But it had always kind of done that, just not to this extent. And when it did, when I had half power or whatever, it would come back on as soon as I pressed the power button. And today, for the first time, it went totally dead, even though it had halfway full. Never did that before I got here today, back at the A&D off that Greyhound bus. And then it was a different bus to get from Othello. Daddy Kevin had paid that taxi bill to get me like $82 out of Othello into the nearest, so I could buy that ticket, the nearest place, because apparently they didn't have any taxis in that small town. I believe it, the hospital said anyway. But I wasn't cooperating with the hospital. I was afraid to death because, you know, I thought I was dead almost. I thought I was dead. It was a delusion because of missing dialysis, trying to get home, and my phone messing up. It was crazy. And I didn't believe it to even be a delusion, but it must have been. And I wasn't having no delusion when I knew what was going on in my car. And like I say, it was half of that wheat field. If it was a wheat, maybe they didn't grow all that, but the wheat, it was green grass and only came up to the hood, and I was not even a foot or two into it. It's not like I was way back in, not like I was really into it, guys. And the other half was like plowed. It was like desolate and brown. It was dead. It didn't look like you could farm on that kind of soil. But then I didn't know if it, because if it had been plowed there, if they grew something else there in Othello. And immediately, as soon as I backed out that car, and believe me, it backed out, it wouldn't back out at all. The wheels were turning, but it wouldn't back out when I put it in reverse and put my fucking foot on the brake. It wouldn't back out. And then when I said, Jesus, please, I command this car to back out in the name of the Lord Jesus. I didn't even have my foot on the accelerator at that point. The car was still in reverse, though. The damn thing backed out on its own perfectly. Swear to God. I'm not crazy. I'm not delusional. I hadn't had any of my medicines. None of them were on me either. And so I'd been lost 2 days. Okay? So none of my Wellbutrin, my Carvedilol, my clonidine, missing dialysis. I missed Friday because I was lost. Didn't call them because I was trying to get home. I missed it today because I don't have Saturday, and I was in the hospital anyway. What kind of hospital doesn't, ask me what's that scar on your arm in the right? You tell me, I said, oh, is it a dialysis fistula? And I'm thinking, well, duh, but I'm thinking, this is crazy. Why are you strapping me here when I'm not violent or nothing? And they strapped one of my arms way above my head to the point it was like burning almost in the hospital. And it was like coming off the bed, and the other arm was down, strapped down below, my waist to the hospital bed. And because I was, telling the police officers, please, no, don't, take me. I'm not my car. All I started doing was, I'm afraid of this gentleman that's parked here whenever, as soon as I backed out. And like I said, I wasn't even a foot into that grass, that wheat field that was growing that grass. It looked like grass, when wheat grows. It wasn't taller than, not even, it came up a little bit, to like maybe halfway. No, right to my hood. I could still see for miles. and it was beautiful. It's like uh, one side of the sky was beautiful sunset, but one side of the sky was totally dark on the other side, like black, like it was night. When before me there was a road right there, and then there was no road. It was like all just in a field everywhere all around me. It was crazy, guys. And I thought, damn, I must be dead or delusional. I was thinking this is like the Valley of Death or something. Walking through the Valley of Death, and I thought I was. And from non-dialyzing to not having any of my meds, I only take Carvedilol. I take 50 milligrams of that now twice a day, and clonidine 0.1. And Mandy said I could have that if my blood pressure was high enough to 0.2, so 2 milligrams, or excuse me, not 2 milligrams, 0.1, 2 of those if my blood pressure was high enough. I didn't have any of my meds with me, guys. I didn't have anything with, not even a jacket. Like I say, I didn't even mean to go up that high or get that lost, excuse me, because it was ridiculous. So yeah, the officers at the Loves just directed me with their hands, go this way instead of saying go right. He's like holding me, like pointing up his hands. Officer Niabla did too. Officer Niabla told me to go a different way. I said, wait, you just said Officer McDonald. You just said sheriff, and they said there were deputies. One of them did, even though he had a sheriff's patch on his arm. Sheriff Niabla said he was a sheriff, and he was a Hispanic gentleman. And then, but like I say, it was so weird, guys, because I've never had that happen. I said, you mean right? He said, yeah. He was showing me, and I said, do you not see over there where it says do not enter? He said, follow us, and at the end, and not right then, they left. But I had to call them back because I'm like, okay, when I went to get on the highway, I'm like, it's telling me do not enter here. When this is where I just came from, I thought, okay, I'm not doing this, and I'm going to just turn right around the way I came and go back that way. Follow any GPS, okay? I'm just going to follow a map, okay? And I couldn't even do that. When I went to go left, out of the same way I came in, it said do not enter. Crazy. I just come that way. But on the opposite side, going back, even though cars were coming toward me, and it wasn't whenever I came there, there was opposite cars on the opposite side of the highway coming toward me, but they didn't. It said I couldn't enter at the exit. I couldn't turn, like, there were 4 lanes. I couldn't do not enter on the ones that were, passing. It was crazy on the way there. Oh my God, on the highway. And so anyway, I said officers at the Loves up there, the new Loves, new Loves. I don't know why it didn't show me that on the Google Maps app, but it did show me that on the Google Maps app, that where that Loves was, and it told me I was going east, even though everybody told me I was going west, and some people would tell me, no, you aren't going east, and it was wild when they'd come up, and I'd ask people, and they'd say, where are you from, blah, blah, blah. Well, yours a long way from home, after I told them I've lived here for 12 years, okay? Before I even told them I was from Coeur d'Alene, 12 years, and they didn't say you're a long way from home then. They said, where's your accent from? Well, I'm originally from North Carolina, but, I've been here in Coeur d'Alene 12 years. Then I started saying, well, that don't matter, I've been in Coeur d'Alene 12 years. I need to get back. And I didn't mean to get this far up here, So it was awful. So these sheriffs that said they were deputies, one of them did, but he had a sheriff on his arm and on his badge. One of the badge, it wasn't even, it was like a patch. It wasn't even a badge. I didn't ask to see any badge or credentials for that officer, for Officer Niabla, who said he was a sheriff. He identified as a sheriff, and on his side of his arm it said sheriff. And the cars and everything, and a bunch of cop cars kept pulling up. That was fine. And so I saw those officers go in, and I'm just gonna call them officers at this point, Officer McDonald, Officer Niabla. Well, I realized, hell, I'm still in a parking lot here, and I've just, where I finally thought to just regularly Google Map it, where it didn't not use the app that showed me the loves and that showed me that I was going east when I knew I wasn't. It was crazy. But everybody kept telling me, yeah, you are, yeah, no, you're not, yeah, you are, whenever I'd ask people. So, because I don't know that's why I relied on the GPS. But then when I just thought, when I pulled in that same Love's, I pulled up into the, in front of it, and I thought, wow, let me just Google map this the traditional way through Safari. Not Safari, Siri. Not Siri. Fucking Safari. Safari. What the hell? The original, iOS, like, yeah, it is Safari. Okay. Oh God. Tired, guys. Anyway, I just Google mapped it there, and it didn't show that Love's. It didn't show that I was going east either. It didn't show nothing. It just showed, the path, and it said east, west. So I didn't read it. I just wanted to see, with my fingers, and I was, zooming in and out. And I thought, there's no Love's here. So I thought, well, damn. And then the Love's did appear there, and not there, but on the Google Maps app. And I'm thinking, that's why they're saying it's a month and a half old, and there's no, it looked pretty desolate. There's no customers in there. Like, whenever I went in, I just thought, well, maybe Google Maps app, it's not showed it yet. But it was just crazy. And so I called the police back, and I told them, can you follow me to make sure I get on? Because I understand your directions, but why are you saying here instead and using your hands when you're instead of saying right whenever? And then why are you using your hands to go left one minute, and then the other officer would use his hand, sheriff, deputy. He was calling himself a deputy though. He's on his arm it said sheriff, and then McDonald did up there at Lowe's in Moses Lake, and then they said it was Grant County, and then Officer Sergeant Niamla. I just pronounced it correctly the first time, Niabla. He was a Hispanic gentleman, and he pronounced it, I'm the sheriff. But it's funny, they didn't have no badge or nothing, and it was different. Like, it was different. It said, on the front of their vest, and McDonald's closed, you couldn't see his name, and he had his hand over it. And then he moved his hand, and it was like there was a damn patch over his name. It was embroidered onto both of their names were embroidered. And it looked like the sheriff's, that was brown on one side of their vest, but on the front it was embroidery of gray, and it had a different, like, state symbol that had differences on both of them. It was crazy. So, but I trusted they were real officers, and they were in real officer cars. I mean, I called 911, but before that, and spoke to a sheriff, though I didn't get his name. And I got the dispatch name, but I don't remember hers. And it's funny how I went in LA and drinks and all that. And Daniel needed, I asked him polite to go back and check it because it tasted the same. But I thought they were just going to switch out the bags of syrup, and it still didn't work. And she was just running them and running them. And what I mean by that, she was holding them down, both of them, like if it's as if somebody were to come up beside me and get the same drink. She was holding it down to see if both of them would work and get darker, as the red would get darker, even though it's a cherry Fanta limeade, or cherry limeade Fanta. I've never heard of that flavor. That's what I mean when I say all these different, at Albertsons, different labeling logos and different products. And then when I press it, I even showed Allie, I said, weird, Allie, how it says cherry and lime whenever I press the Fanta, and it dispenses the Fanta like it should, But when I pressed the cherry, I thought, okay, maybe it's going to let me just put how much cherry, how much lime I want in it. And then the rest of it will be, whatever Fanta flavor. Maybe it'll be clear, whatever, I don't know. But it wasn't, it was slightly red. And I thought that was so strange. And she thought it was strange too. She said, but when we pressed it, the red part and the red, yellow, and the, excuse me, not yellow, the green that said lime and the red that said cherry, nothing happened on both sides. And it was wild. And so anyway, the sheriff's got there, but I said, "Where's the sheriff's department, Tanya? Do you know?" And because I thought she said somewhere around here. I said, "Okay, well, they're probably not going to let pedestrians just walk in the sheriff's office this time of night anyway, around 9." And I had been lost. So, and I've never been to Moses Lake. I thought it was a real lake, and like that you had to pass. And he asked me about that. And we'll get that. I don't know if it was or not. I don't know if that was just the name of the town or what. But anyway, so when I got out of that, when the law came, when I called them, Officer McDonald, Officer Niabla, there were sheriffs. They had sheriff's badges on. Officer Niabla identified himself as Sheriff Niabla. The other one identified himself as McDonald, Officer McDonald, the Caucasian man. But he had he was covering his name with his hand, and then when he took it away, it was like a patch embroidered over his name, like a Velcro patch over E. And like I say, the in front of his badge and the side, not the badge, but the star with the state's emblem had differences, and it was also embroidered, and this was for the same for both of these sheriffs at this Loves, okay? It was gray on the front with differences in the state seal, okay? There's not going to be a difference in the state seal, even if that is how it looks, because on the side of their arm, it was also embroidered, the state, the star, the police star, but it was tan, like their zip up, or excuse me, their button up tan shirts. And so anyway, I asked him how to get back to Coeur d'Alene because my phone was messing up. I just told you why. The Google app maps was showing me something different than, when I pulled into Love's, I didn't pull up to a gas tank, even though that was the goal to get gas. I pulled in front of it, and I'm not high, Carrie. I'm just reiterating the story over and over because of the fact that this is so wild and bizarre that I am absolutely floored. Aren't you? But see, look, now when I do this, let's see if my chat will pop up. No, it says welcome to the chat. When I scroll up, okay, it's showing Carrie. See, it wasn't showing nobody before when I pressed that. It was just showing welcome. And when I'd scroll up, it wouldn't show anybody. Now it's showing everybody else. I don't know what that means. Dr. Beach is on YouTube our trip. Anyway, so Carrie, like I say, this was wild. And then, so these officers, McDonald and Niabla, one pointed in like the left, but he wouldn't say it left. He wouldn't say it. He was pointing right. He said go this way. He was using hand signals, like pointing to the right with his hand up in the air and his his palm. He said go this way, and I said, do you see? He said, do you see the sign with my flashlight's pointing? I said yes. And he said, turn right there and follow, that interstate to the. And I said, that the left, you mean? He said yes. I said, I don't know why you're saying there instead of left, because sometimes I don't get that mixed up, but sometimes I have to go, left, right, with my brain. And so it was weird. Instead of just what officers identify as a deputy, even though it says sheriff, and the other one says sheriff and identifies as sheriff, Niabla did. But their uniforms are embroidered with different stars on the front of them that are gray, and the state seal looking the same. Looking different, as the embroidered tan star on the sides of their shoulders, on their upper shoulders, where that's just weird. Why was McDonald covering his name with his hand, kind of with his, his hand up to his mouth, his arm was covering his name, Caucasian officer McDonald either Deputy McDonald, he said he was, even though everything about him on there said sheriff above it. And it was embroidered, but there was subtle differences in the state seal. So, because I thought, okay, maybe it is embroidered here, gray on the front. It's the star, okay, for the police. But on the upper shoulders, the star is going to be tan. But see, the Washington, I don't know their Washington logo, but the state seal is going to be the same for that, the police department. They both said they were from the same one, and so did their cars. Said the county. But there were differences in the state seal. There were differences, okay? There's not going to be differences in that county seal or that police office, when they both stated, Niabla and everybody, they both come out at the same time when I called them. And I asked Tony, where's your sheriff's department around here that night? And she said, oh, I don't know, it's around here somewhere. And then I thought that was strange, but I said, okay, well, I'm just going to call 911 again and get the sheriff out here, because I wasn't pulled into a parking lot or a gas pump. I was just pulled right up into the parking lot in front of this Love's, this brand new month-and-a-half Love's at the freaking, I can't believe that. Why did I not think to just Google it the old-fashioned way on Safari on my phone? Okay? Where it didn't show that Love's. But on the but the Siri and the Google Maps I had showed me a Love's. First it said 9 miles, and it said 7 miles up the road, and said I was going east, when I was told by people I was going west. I thought, no, it was so strange. But I don't know my south from east to west instinctually, so I trusted my my navigator there, But like I say, the gentleman that came to put gas in my car, he told me I was going west when he figured out where I was. Even though my Google Maps app on this phone showed I was going east, whenever I pulled out to go the same way to get to that Love's gas station, he said, there's a sheriff up the road. He might pull you whenever, because I don't see a license plate. And I didn't tell him I had a temp tag, and I told you my windows are so tinted all around the car when I bought it like that, except the windshield. And I thought, well, hell, we're on the side of the road right before I pulled up to that Lowe's, And I've never, ever been stranded like that. I was only 7 miles from it, after it said 9 miles. Then I realized, oh, God, when I got up to the Lowe's, that damn, I pulled right up in front of the Lowe's. I didn't pull up to a gas pump. But I had a little something to eat. I had something to eat in the back of that Velveeta bowl. And then I was trying to get the drink I wanted, and I ended up getting, just ice like usual. And so anyway, it was a long night, and so these officers came out. I told you how they identified themselves as sheriff, and even though one was deputy, it said sheriff, and all the subtleties and differences between their embroidered logos. But there was, one was gray in the front, one was tan on the side on the upper shoulder, and it was gray. It was embroidered. The star was the same, but the logo, whether it was a police department logo, I know they were both from the same police department. They said they were, but it doesn't matter. They pulled up at the same time, same everything. Car looked the same, everything. It said Grant County on it, to my knowledge. Yeah, Grant County it said. Pretty sure it said Grant. Anyway, I'm not from Moses Lake. So they, why was there subtleties, differences in their, or was there differences in their seal? Like their state seal, if it was a state seal, if it was a police seal, if it was a logo, I don't know. There was the difference. Yeah, there was subtle differences. For instance, man, that's crazy. I don't know why I didn't ask them about that. But why, whenever they showed me, okay, go, do you see where I'm pointing my flashlight at this? Yes. And I described, where I see, okay, go this way. He'd hold up his hand, and he'd point to the right. And I said, why aren't you saying right? And, I meant to say right. No, he didn't say that. No, you'd think he'd want to say that. No, go this way and then turn left after you get out of there. Okay, you mean right here, right? And I showed him on, it's just crazy. And I said, Then I had Officer Niabla do it. And he told me to turn same way, but he said go right. Like I had just reiterated to Caucasian officer. He was telling him, even though it said sheriff on his, he was saying he was a deputy. Anyway, I got all this stuff. I got some of this recorded. And I thought I did anyway. No, actually I don't, damn. But they record. So surely they do. And maybe they weren't real cops since there were so many differences and it was all embroidered and McDonald, Caucasian McDonald, officer, what the hell? And had a, hold up, was covering like his name at first when he had his hand up to his chin, kind of rubbing it. It was over his arm, his name. And then when I looked, he pulled a Velcro thing off of it, said McDonald, D. McDonald or whatever. And Officer Niabla was Hispanic, and he said, his wasn't covered at all. And this was all embroidered, okay? The stars and everything looking different on the upper right, or on the upper shoulder. I don't know if it was right or left, I didn't look. And then in the upper chest area, there was an embroidered star that was gray. And they both said sheriff. Well, no, the one on the side said sheriff for both of them. However, I'm just going to keep calling him officer. Sheriff Niabla said, I'm a sheriff, I'm Sheriff Niabla. And McDonald's, Caucasian man McDonald, said, I'm deputy. But his on his side was a gray embroidered star, as the same as, same star points as everything as Niabla right beside him, pulled up at the same time. I said, well, you just said you're a deputy, but it says you're a sheriff. That's not normal. They'll normally identify themselves as sheriff, especially when I say I think it's disrespectful to not refer to an officer as the correct rank. And, so they would say sheriff or deputy, and it's crazy. Both of them said sheriff on the side. But I thought, okay, there's going to be no mistake in the logos, even though the sheriff's on the front, on the upper left of their chest or upper right, I don't know, the stars, it was same pointed star, but it was gray. But there were differences in the freaking logo, guys. There were subtle differences in the logo, and they were both it's like one. There were subtle differences in the logo. That's not going to happen, okay? Whether it was a state logo for Washington, whether it was the local police department or for that county, that's not going to be, and I didn't ask to see their badge or nothing. So when I did ask a cop to see his badge, he showed me a card. One showed me a license, a Washington license, and another incident, and where I just was curious, and I asked him, walked up and asked him, and one wanted to run my plate, but he didn't even, or asked me asked me for my license, and I was having a panic attack, and I was like, okay, I'm getting it out. But then he asked me another question, and he knew my name whenever he hadn't even been to his car or looked around. This was whenever I just walked up to one and asked him, a question, when my car had died. I just wanted to ask him if he had any jumper cables. When that car never dies, that battery never fails. After I just put gas in it another day. This was different. This was different police interaction, okay? And two men had come up to me from that different, this was another day. Let's continue with the loves thing, okay? God. It's so different. So anyway, Officer McDonald, Officer Niabla, they told me to go two different ways. One told me to go this way, he held out his hand, but he was saying this way, and I said, you mean right? He said, yes. I said, you mean right out of the parking lot? Because I know my left and my right, but I'm wondering, sometimes I have to go left, right, with my head. But I don't know north, south, east, and west. That's why I'm on my phone, which was messing up, the app was. And when I pulled up to this Love's, it said on Google Maps app, it was showing me a Love's 7 to 9 miles away. At first it was saying 7, and it said 9, and no, at first it said 9, and it said 7, and it showed me I was going east, even though I was told I was going west by the gentleman had from the tow company who had put you know, gas in my car. Originally said he was going to quote $220, and then I asked him to knock the 20 off of it, and I was going to have to get help from Kevin, and because that would have been all the money I had, just about. And he said he came out and he put gas in it, and he said his name was Joaquin. He was a Hispanic man. He told me, basically that no, I was going west, because I told him I didn't know, and I couldn't trust my GPS, and I didn't know that until I did know that, and I was thinking it was weird, so that's why whenever I pulled up at this Lowe's, or Love's, it said, on the Google Apps map, the app on my phone, that it was there, and I was going east. However, that's whenever I decided finally I'm just going to look up a map on Google through Safari. And it didn't show the Loves, and it showed, different direction patterns. And I understood this, and it looked correctly as a map. But it was still showing me, and I was zooming in and out with my fingers to see, like what on earth and it's going on here. And so that's when I realized I can't trust my Google Maps app. Like whenever you say, Siri, please get me to this location or that location, it pulls up the app. So now my app started glitching as of not yesterday night, but the day earlier in that day, and the night before when I was trying to get home. So it was glitching. Who knows how long it had been glitching, dude. That's probably how I got all the way up in fucking Moses Lake in Othello. I didn't know Othello from like the poem, that Shakespeare poem, even though I don't know it too well at all. My map was fucking me over. So anyway, I walked in, told you what happened with the drink dispenser, how that was weird, and then I asked Tanya, Caucasian woman, and then I said, where's the sheriff's department? And she said it was somewhere around here. And I thought, well, hell, I'm going to Google it and go to it. But then I thought, well, hell, no, you can't get in there this time of night. But I'm not going to let pedestrians in, probably. And I don't want to get more lost, and I can't rely on my map, on my Google Apps map. So that's when I had the sheriff come back out there after I called them originally. So anyway, it was just so strange how those deputies, one was the sheriff, even though he's calling himself a deputy, on the side of the thing, it was all embroidered. It said sheriff. They both said sheriff. But up on their shoulders, it was tan star, same points, but on their front upper chest, it was a gray star, same amount of points as well on the stars. But there were differences, guys, in the logo, whether it was Washington local or state police department. There were differences as well in that. That's ridiculous. So for the Sheriff McDonald and Niabla. So anyway, Sheriff McDonald, God, he said his name was McDonald. But he was covering it up with his hand at first. He was stroking his chin, and then when he said his name, and then some, he said, just call me Don or whatever. Some of them said that, not him, but he said his name was Officer McDonald. But some of them were just telling me to go by their first names. And I said, okay, even though I think that's disrespectful, just like I think it's disrespectful to call a police officer, because I want to be a cop or work in law enforcement. By the wrong, I think it's disrespectful, and I told him I think it's disrespectful, for me to call you guys by the wrong rank. And I just thought it was weird. It said sheriff, but one of them referred to themselves as deputy, Caucasian man, McDonald. And then when he took his hand away, he took a Velcro thing off and revealed his name. It was like a Velcro patch over his name. It was all embroidered. I didn't ask to see a badge or anything then. I didn't ask to see anything, any credentials, nothing. I said, how do I get back on the correct spot? Because I told them why. That my phone GPS Google Map app was messing up. like this love shouldn't even be here on the Safari whenever I type it in Google, but I didn't think to ever do that on Safari. Um, until I pulled up at that Lowe's in Moses Lake after being lost for like a day, and almost a day or more, a little bit more maybe, but no, about half a day there. And I was trying to get home, and no, I wasn't even lost for a day at that point, because I took off earlier that day, not wanting to, after what happened in Albertsons, not wanting to go further than Silver Lake, not Silver Lake, Spokane Valley Mall, get if there's no Krispy Kreme here, and get a coffee and a donut and turn back around, just go on a short ride. And yeah, so it was wild. And so why was he pointing up and saying go this way? And because I have to go left, right in my head sometimes. And I said, you mean right out of the parking lot? Yes. Okay, so why don't you just say right? And then he said go this way, and I mean you mean left, right? Because I was looking at the way he was pointing his hand, and I had to say left, right, left, right. Okay, left. And he said yes. And then Officer Niabla said the same thing, go right out of the parking lot. But he said go right onto another. I said, wait a minute, won't that just that'll keep me going in the same direction I'm currently going. That's gotten me this lost this far. Okay? And he said, no, trust me. It looked longer to go that way, and it was longer to go that way. And it was crazy, man. But it would have looped me around, I guess, is what. But then, okay. I said, that seems longer. And he said, no, it's faster, trust me. And I said, okay. Even though he just said, go, this Officer McDonald just pointed that I could get on the interstate from like not even a freaking quarter of a mile, not even that, not just a few feet. Okay, I'm just going to go the shorter way. But I ended up seeing those freaking signs, and I said, can you just, on their uniforms, and I said, can you, either one of you officers, just follow me out of the store to make sure I get onto the, no, because then I'll have to turn on the interstate and loop and do all that. And I said, okay, well, can you, a few minutes later, I thought, well, if my map's messing up and stuff, and me not thinking to open up Safari and look at the real map, but even though it shows you a picture too, I was just letting Google Maps app from Siri guide me. It said that Love's was there, and the ones on Safari said it wasn't. And I thought, okay, I went in, they said it was a month and a half open. I thought, okay, well, maybe it just hasn't had time to update on the Google Maps app, because all that was up to date on my phone. Or it would tell me that the damn app needed to be, I'm not looking at the chat, needed to be updated. It didn't tell me that for any of these. And then today my phone going dead when it had, more than, it wasn't in the red zone. When I finally got to, it was crazy. So anyway, it wasn't doing that before today. But usually when it does that, it comes right back on. One time it came right back on, earlier, and like months ago, and now today it didn't come right back on whenever it was almost a half a charge full. Crazy. But it was staying charged without that battery pack, which was dead in the car. They didn't put that in my belongings. The cops didn't. Whenever my car and I was being wrestled, I fell to the ground. And I didn't mean to, because they were, shining lights and everything, and I thought it was that same crazy man that threatened me whenever I got into the little bit of wheatgrass, not even a foot, maybe a two into that little wheat field, and the rest of it was plowed, and it was wheat growing. If it was wheat at all, it was wheat, and it was green wheat. It was growing up to, it came up to just my car's, like the hood of my car, but not above it or anything. So when I pressed on the, I put it in reverse, and I pressed on the gas pedal, it wouldn't go. Like the tires were spinning, but it wouldn't go back. It wanted to. It was going back a little bit, but then when I said Jesus, I took my hand off of I put it on the wheel. I kept the car in reverse. It said reverse. The Impala, and I took my foot off the accelerator. I said, please, in the name of Jesus, I have faith this car will reverse and go back. And I'd be damned if it didn't. And I know that sounds crazy and delusional, but it fucking happened. It fucking happened. And that's as soon as that happened, somebody pulled up to me and put his hand out of his truck, like he was, dangling his hand out, with your window out, like if you had on a hot summer day and you were parked and you wanted to roll your window down and just dangle your hand outside of the yard.